Hi friends, my topic is about definition and scope of comparative literature. First of all, what is comparative literature? It is nothing but comparing one literature with another or others. The term comparative literature was coined by Matthew Arnold, who is a Victorian poet and also a literary critic. Matthew Arnold used the term to refer to comparing literary works across languages, across cultures. Different people studied comparative literature for different purposes. Let us see about German contribution, French contribution, and American contribution to comparative literature. First of all, let us see about German contribution to comparative literature. The Germans studied their folk tales seriously, with special emphasis on their themes. They gave the thematic universals and added thematology to comparative literature studies. What is thematology? It is nothing but study of themes in literature, especially of culture. Next, French contribution to comparative literature. The French comparatist introduced the influence study mainly in order to proclaim to the world that they were the first literary influence in Europe. And then American contribution to comparative literature. The Americans specialized in parallel studies. It is the Americans who widened the scope of comparative literature to include the psychological and the sociological approaches. Thus, like German, American and French, each nation has contributed something special to our comparative literature. Now let us see about the definition of comparative literature. Many scholars gave their best definition of comparative literature. Now let us see about H. Remarque's definition. He is the famous American comparatist. He defines our comparative literature as the study of literature beyond the confines of one particular country and the study of the relationship between literature on the one hand and the other areas of knowledge and beliefs such as arts, philosophy, history and social science, religion, etc. on the other. Here, arts include painting, sculpture, architecture, music and so on. Here, social science includes politics, economics and sociology. Now let us see about the scope of comparative literature. The comparatist may study questions of cultural migration. For example, a scholar may study the impact of the American novels on French fiction in the interwar years. He may also study the interaction between individual writers. Mainly, comparatists are interested in translation, as translation remains one of the basic tools of comparative literature. Comparatives study the interaction between literature and other arts like music, painting, sculpture and architecture. They also closely observe the impact of different schools of thought on literature. For example, Goldman's study of the Matrix influence on French writing. This may be cited as a good example. Now let us move to drawback. There is one main drawback in the scope of comparative literature. It ignores the style and subtle differences in language. It overlooks particularity in its search of universality. Major aspects of comparative literature. First one, influence study. It examines how one literature is influenced by the other. Next one, analogy. Analogy studies the parallels between writers and works. Next one, thematology. It is the study of themes. Next, reception study. It aims at measuring the response to a writer's works abroad. Next one, translation. It is an important tool for a translator. Next one, genre studies. It analyzes the various literary forms involved in comparative literature. And some other major aspects of comparative literature were movements and trends, literature and other arts, literature and philosophy, and then sociology and psychology. That's all. Overall, comparative literature is primarily a mode of studying different literatures from a comparative point of view. Thank you. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day.